Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never thought that one night could change everything. I had been planning our engagement for months, making sure every detail was perfect, every moment unforgettable. My name is Marcus. I'm 32, and I thought I knew Evelyn. She had always been charming, witty, and full of life. People adored her. I adored her. I was ready to take the next step in our relationship, fully committed, fully certain that she felt the same way. But I was about to learn that the Evelyn I thought I knew was only the version she allowed me to see. The day started like any other. We were going out to a small, upscale restaurant in central London, somewhere cozy, intimate, where I planned to propose quietly before the evening got busy. I was nervous, yes, but in that familiar way that excitement and love mix into butterflies and adrenaline. Evelyn looked radiant, as always. She had picked out a black dress that hugged her perfectly, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. We laughed over our shared jokes on the way, and for a moment, I felt the ease that had carried our relationship for the past 3 years. But as soon as we arrived, the mood began to shift. The restaurant wasn't crowded, but a few familiar faces were seated at nearby tables. Friends from work, some acquaintances from the neighborhood. I thought it would be sweet. They would witness a happy, loving couple sharing a special night. I was wrong. Evelyn's eyes darted nervously around the room, and the first words she spoke to me made my stomach drop. "Marcus, really? Are you still wearing that tie? It looks cheap." I froze. My tie? It was a fine silk tie, something I had chosen with care. But the words came out of her mouth with such sharpness, such deliberate mockery, that I felt heat rush to my face. She wasn't joking, this was public humiliation. I tried to brush it off, a nervous chuckle escaping me, hoping she would realize how cruel it sounded. But Evelyn didn't stop. She continued, louder this time. "Honestly, Marcus, I can't believe you think this looks good. My friends are going to laugh." She gestured subtly toward the other tables. And they did. A few people looked our way, some stifling laughs or awkward glances. My heart sank deeper with every word. I remember sitting there, frozen, while the voice inside me screamed, "Why is she doing this? Why now?" I had invested so much time, effort, emotions into making her feel loved, valued, cherished. I had always encouraged her, supported her ambitions, never once doubted her choices. And here she was, cutting me down like I was a joke for everyone to see. My mind raced, but the feeling in my chest was unmistakable. Betrayal. For a moment, I tried to reason with her privately. I leaned slightly closer and whispered, "Evelyn, that wasn't necessary. You're embarrassing me." Her response cut me even deeper. "Embarrassing? Marcus, I'm just being honest. You need to hear the truth, even if it hurts." She smirked, almost proud, as if she had won some silent contest. It was then I realized the pattern. Evelyn didn't care about my feelings in that moment. She cared about how she appeared to others, how she could assert dominance, how she could make me small while everyone watched. And the worst part? She had been practicing this in subtle ways for months. Small insults, sarcastic comments disguised as jokes, tiny digs at my confidence whenever friends or family were around. I had ignored them, telling myself I was overreacting, that maybe I was too sensitive. But this night left no room for denial. I stood up, my chair scraping against the polished floor. I could feel the eyes on me, but I didn't care. Evelyn's smug expression faltered for a moment, and I knew she hadn't expected me to react. I took a deep breath, steadying my voice so it wouldn't tremble, and I said, "Evelyn, we need to leave." She laughed, a sharp, dismissive laugh that made my skin crawl. "Leave? Marcus, you're overreacting. People are watching." And that's when I made the decision that would change everything. I had been patient, I had been loving, I had forgiven countless minor humiliations because I wanted to believe in us. But this was deliberate. This was a line crossed in front of witnesses, a public statement that she valued nothing I had to offer. My love wasn't weak. My tolerance wasn't infinite. I realized at that moment that some relationships aren't worth preserving. no matter how much history you share. If you've ever been in a situation where someone humiliated you in public, hit the like button and share the story so it can reach others who need to hear it. I didn't argue further. I simply gestured for her to follow me to the door. The walk outside into the chilly evening felt surreal. Traffic rushed past. People walked by without noticing the tension between us, and yet it felt like every step was a loud announcement of the truth. Evelyn and I were no longer on the same side. My mind replayed the events in rapid flashes. Every sarcastic comment, every small insult, every time she had minimized me in front of others. I felt a mix of anger and sorrow, but beneath it all, there was clarity. We reached my car, parked 2 blocks away. I opened the driver's side door and waited. Evelyn's eyes narrowed, sensing my finality. She opened her mouth, probably expecting another argument, another attempt to appease her. But there was nothing left to say. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Evelyn, I can't do this anymore. I love myself too much to let you continue treating me like this. Not now, not ever." Her face changed, a flash of surprise mixed with irritation. She tried to argue, but I held up my hand. "No," I said firmly. "This engagement is over. We're done." She stood frozen, realizing for the first time that I was serious. The air between us was heavy, charged with years of misunderstandings, miscommunications, and now, this final boundary. And in that moment, I felt a strange sense of liberation. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't revenge. It was simply peace, the peace of finally standing up for myself, acknowledging my worth, and refusing to allow someone else to define it in public or private. Comment below if you've ever faced public humiliation in a relationship. I'd love to hear how you dealt with it, and let's discuss what respect truly means in love. As we drove in silence back to my apartment, I reflected on everything we had shared, everything I had hoped for. I knew this would hurt, for both of us, but I also knew that enduring humiliation quietly was a debt I would no longer pay. Evelyn's laughter, her smirks, her need to dominate the social narrative. They belonged to her, not to me, and I was finally reclaiming my story. The next morning, the reality hit me fully. My apartment felt emptier than usual, not because Evelyn had been here, but because the weight of years I had spent hoping she would change had finally lifted. I brewed a strong cup of coffee, sat by the window, and watched the city come alive. The sunlight cutting across the floor felt oddly symbolic. A new day, a new chapter, free from pretense. I knew people would judge me. Friends, family, even casual acquaintances would have opinions. Some would say I overreacted, that I should have tried harder, that engagements weren't meant to be broken over words. But I didn't care. For the first time in a long time, I trusted my own instincts. I realized that enduring repeated humiliation is not love. It's a slow erosion of self-respect, and I refused to let my identity dissolve under someone else's cruelty. The text started soon after. Evelyn, surprisingly composed, sent a message that read, "Marcus, I think you overreacted. We can talk this through." I stared at it for a moment, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to respond, to explain, to plead, but I knew better. I typed back a single line, "No, Evelyn, this ends here." A sense of calm washed over me immediately after hitting send. It wasn't bitterness. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. I had given everything I could, and now the only thing left to do was reclaim my own life. I felt a strange mixture of relief and sorrow. Relief for standing up for myself, sorrow for the dreams and memories that would now belong only to the past. Share your thoughts in the comments. How would you have handled someone humiliating you publicly? Let's start a discussion about boundaries, respect, and self-worth in relationships. That afternoon, I went for a walk through the park near my apartment. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of autumn leaves. Couples strolled by, laughing, holding hands, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a pang of envy. But then I reminded myself that love should never feel like a contest of power or a performance for others. Real love respects, uplifts, and protects dignity, both yours and theirs. Evelyn had forgotten that, and I had remembered. In the following days, friends reached out. Some expressed disbelief, others concern, but almost all supported my decision once I explained the events. The validation from people who mattered gave me strength, but the most important validation came from within. I realized that sometimes saying no, walking away, and setting boundaries is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of courage. It's choosing yourself in a world that often demands you compromise your self-worth for the comfort of others. I even called my parents, hesitated, then recounted everything in detail. They were shocked, naturally, but they didn't lecture me. Instead, they said something that stayed with me. Marcus, the measure of love is respect. Never forget that. I repeated those words in my head over and over, letting them sink deep. Respect isn't optional. It isn't negotiable. And it certainly isn't something that should be displayed selectively for an audience. A week later, I cleaned out the few belongings Evelyn had left at my place. A jacket, a scarf, a set of books she'd lent me. I boxed them carefully and left them at the doorstep of her flat with a short note. This is yours. Take it. I am done. I didn't linger, didn't hesitate. Each step I took back to my apartment felt lighter, freer. The weight of pretense, of enduring small humiliations to avoid conflict, had been lifted. If this story resonated with you, hit like, comment with your own experience, and subscribe for more stories that explore real-life lessons about love, respect, and standing up for yourself. Every story here reminds us that self-worth is never negotiable. That evening, I sat on my balcony, watching the city lights shimmer. There was a calm I hadn't felt in months. No anger, no regret, only the clarity of knowing I had acted with integrity, with self-respect, and with courage. Evelyn would move on with her life and I would move on with mine. But the lesson I carried forward was indelible. Love is never worth sacrificing your dignity, and engagement rings or promises don't make humiliation acceptable. I knew the world might never understand why I ended things so abruptly. They might only see the engagement, the broken tradition, or the dramatic public confrontation. But I understood, and that was enough. I had chosen myself, and in doing so, I had reclaimed my life from someone who had no intention of honoring my worth. The night deepened, and I finally allowed myself to breathe fully. I was free, whole, and ready for whatever came next. The laughter, the teasing, the shared dreams. They would all remain a part of my story, but they wouldn't define me anymore. Not Evelyn, not the humiliation, not the public spectacle. Only I would define what respect and love meant in my life moving forward.